What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Meet the Critters. This is episode 37. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Joe.
Man, we planned that well. We put a lot of time into that. This was about 3 minutes before we figured that out. We got a fun one. We got a celebrity in here tonight. We have Nicole Sause.
Hi! I just got elevated to celebrity status.
Yeah. We do. That's what we need. We need a soundboard with like applause and everything now.
Yeah.
We're going big time with the podcast. Nicole, what's going on?
Well, I just finished making dinner and you texted me in the middle of making dinner. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going live at 7, so I better eat that dinner. So normal homestead stuff.
Right.
Yep.
I know we had a video chat like a week or two ago when we set this up, and you're like, you need to text me a week before, you need to text me 3 days before, and then you need to text me about an hour before to make sure that we get this done.
It's really hard for me to do weekend lives because I jump into my weekend and I'm really focused on household things a lot. And so when I do a live stream, which tend to be more Monday, Friday for me, that's on the weekend, it has happened when somebody did not have my cell phone number that I totally missed it. And then I came back and there were like 90, they were super nice about it, but there were like 90 emails. Where are you? I'm like, oh. I literally said yes this morning over coffee and missed this one. So thank you for the reminder.
Rachel Brown's calling you out, Joe. It was 2 minutes. 2 minutes,
Yeah.
Rachel. Give us.
We planned it like 30 seconds before we went on.
Oh, by the way. So
you did well though.
Yeah, we figured it out. We're getting there. We're a newer podcast. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So Nicole, tell us a little bit about you. Obviously, we know about you, but who's Nicole?
I'm Nicole Sause from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast, which I started about 7 years ago to share my journey homesteading, walking towards independence, which just for me meant taking control of my life and building it the way I want it to be, rather than the way like the newspapers, magazines, and mainstream media say it needs to be. And since that time, I've taken a coffee roasting business commercial, founded the Self Reliance Festival, which you were at last fall, and developed a really cool community of people. Like I can't really say I developed it, they developed themselves, but what has happened since making that decision is that we have a really cool group of neighbors who live all near each other that we call the holler neighbors. And then we also have the wider community who are a bunch of doers. And if you've never hung out with a bunch of doers without energy vampires, it's a totally different experience than most of day-to-day life. And in that way, they all empower each other to be better. So it's pretty cool. I'm pretty pleased with where things have gone.
Oh, the energy at SRF is infectious. I had a 21-hour drive back home after SRF. It was awful because my head was just spinning of like, what am I doing next? Where is this going? When am I coming back? Like, it was amazing. You're absolutely right. Like being around all of those people that are like, no, we're getting stuff done. Like we're doing it is like, oh yeah, I'm slacking on everything. Like I'm lazy. You walk away from it going,
you and me both. I feel that way sometimes when somebody comes up and they were at 6 months ago, they were at the festival and they come to the next one 6 months later. And they're like, since that time, I've lost 180 pounds and I've started a new business and it's like 6 figures and they'll tell me all this stuff they've done. I'm like, sweet. I just did another festival.
Pip down here just says you could see Kyle's gears turning at SRF. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Like has honestly changed my life for sure. And we will be back.
Yeah, I can't wait to have you guys back.
Talking about it since he came back. Like every time I talk to him now, it's weekly. He always you gotta come. You gotta come at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth traveling for. We had people there from Hawaii last time.
That's awesome.
They brought me hats. It was really cool.
Well, it's like the cool thing about it is, like me and Brian have talked about this from the Lots Project of he was watching me last year and going, oh, you're doing what I did the year before. So now me going into my next year of it, going, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to do this different and how we're like, this is going to be awesome. And I'm excited to see Joe going through what I went through last year of making connections, meeting people. Like, it's nuts. Like, I just compared it to a marathon. Like, I don't think we stopped once through the entire festival. It was crazy.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going. I sleep for days after it.
I'm sure.
Yep. So, but it's worth doing. I'm really excited about the one that's coming up April 6th and 7th. And we have a little bit of a health thing happening here. So I've got a natural veterinarian. I haven't booked her yet, but natural remedy veterinarian hopefully coming. We'll see. And then working with an herbalist and some other sort of alternative health folks. And somebody just turned me on to another health person, like prepper health guy. So it's more about, it's kind of, so of course we have Chuck Peoples doing the emergency medical and wound care stuff and ways to keep people alive if they're hurt. But we're looking more at prevention too, because one of the things that works better if you're in a crisis situation is if you're fit and healthy and not dependent on as many medications. And you can do, like, if right now you're not fit and you're not healthy and you're dependent on a lot of medications, in most cases, you can make some changes in your life and get way closer to a better situation. And we've just watched person after person transform after this event in, both their financial health, but also their physical health. So I kind of realized at the last one, it was time to bring up the herbal medicine. We've also got a women's self-defense workshop right before put on by Sonny Bazookas, who's a pretty renowned trainer. And he doesn't come at it from like fight like a boy. He says fight like a girl, like use your girl benefits to take advantage of that and win. Because if you are being attacked, it doesn't matter if you fight fair. It matters that you win.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
So I wish I could take that class. I'm like, man, there's no way I could take this class the day before the festival starts.
But you're absolutely right though. Like, being healthy is the main pillar of being prepared and being like just good in life. Like, if you're not healthy, your life's not going to be super fun. If you're healthy, yeah, you're going to go through life way easier. And it's like, I think anyone who starts raising their own meat and raising their own, like growing their own garden, raising their own livestock, that's in their brain of like, oh, these are way healthier. I know exactly where they came from. I saw them every single day of their life. And now I'm eating them and I feel better because of it. It's clean. It's not full of salt. It's not full of whatever. Like, no, this came from here and you feel better physically and mentally because of it.
Yeah, and I think we end up with so this is going to get a little woo-woo, but I think you have a spiritual connection with your food when you raise it. So that, by the act of nurturing your animals and your plants, there's a give and take. Like, you develop a relationship with this animal that you're later going to shoot. Mm-hmm. And that sounds sad, but at the same time, like, that's way better. You're making sure they have as fast a death as they can, as calm a death as they can. And they're giving back to you in the form of nourishment. Same with plants. I would like to find where I read this. I was reading once that plants can sense mineral deficiencies in you when you're tending them, and they will mine those from the earth. So I don't know, like, I've gotten into like wild edible plants a lot, and I'll be walking in the woods and I'll be like, what is that plant? What is that plant? And the third time I ask that question, I figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I have a cold and that's good for a cold.
Right.
And that's just, you'll just start seeing different ones. So I think there's a big spiritual connection there. And it goes with animals as well.
No, so I've actually been waiting to tell this story. I don't even think I told Joe this story yet, but having that spiritual connection with your animal, because we get it all the time because we're butchers. So everyone just automatically thinks it's like, oh, you just kill shit for fun. Like, you don't even care anymore. And it's like, yes, I am somewhat desensitized to it. It's easier because it's a job. But it's like, especially when you're raising these animals, like when you've like in our case with the pigs, it's like when you farrowed an entire litter and brought them to the point of slaughter, I am as connected to those as you possibly can. Well, I was in Tractor Supply the other day, and I was talking to one of the cashiers because I know him. We were talking about the pigs and everything, and a guy was behind me at the self-checkout, and he goes, oh, you have pigs? Like, are you selling any? And I was like, well, what are you looking for? Are you looking for, like, cuts? Are you looking for half carcass? Are you looking for live animals? What are you looking for? And he goes, oh, well, I actually, I go down to Texas at my boss's property, and we run dogs. We run hogs with dogs, which I'm not opposed to at all. Like, we have plenty of hunters up here that run bear with dogs, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, oh, well, I can't bring those home. So I figured the next best thing was to help train up my dogs was to just buy pigs around here and use them, which there's a part of me that's like, I don't like, that's not an awful plan, like whatever, but you're not doing that with my pigs. And he just did not catch the hint that I was not the person to be talking to about this. And he's just like, oh yeah, I heard, because I was talking about the Mangalitzas, and I was like, yeah, I've heard those Mangalitzas are like the best thing, like best comparison for what I'm trying to do, this, that, and the other. And he's just digging his hole deeper and deeper. And at this point, I'm standing fairly close to him because I'm pissed. And I basically looked at him. I was like, well, you'll never get any of my animals. And let me tell you this, you get more bees with sugar than like salt. Don't go into a conversation with a farmer whose life literally depends on these piglets and go, oh, I'm going to feed them my pit bulls and watch them. I'm like, yeah, no, man. Like, no self-respecting farmer is going to do that. I guarantee you're going to find someone who doesn't care and will sell you a bunch of runty piglets for $50. But you can't walk into somewhere and just come out with that, because at the end of the day, we do have an amazing connection with these animals because their lives depend on us and vice versa. So yeah, that story happened. I completely forgot about it until you said that. And I was like, oh, this is a good point to bring this in. But yeah, the connection that producers have is huge. And if there isn't one, I almost don't trust you a bit.
Yeah, they're definitely not in it. All they're in it for is making money or some other weird thing for sure. I definitely agree. Like, I have no problem with them running dogs on the wild pigs because they are a huge problem. Right. I get that, but I don't think I'd sell my piglets for training dogs.
No. So like, I would love to run hogs with dogs. That's on like one of my bucket lists to do. Yeah. Like, I think that'd be a cool thing to do. But at the same time, it's like, no.
I almost considered wanting to go on the helicopter one, like Ted Nugent and
like Ted Nugent.
Pigman. You can't watch that and not be like, that's pretty freaking cool. Like, I want to try it.
We do have a question down here.
Yeah. Hey, can I answer that one before you guys do?
Yes, go for it. Pippin says, walk-in coolers, is it overkill for homesteaders or needed for larger butchery?
I believe on a homestead, you can get away without having a walk-in cooler and still do larger butchery. There are ways to get it done. That being said, I have 4 chest freezers, like deep freezers. Some are upright, some are chest freezers. And our long-term plan is to build a walk-in freezer because it's not that expensive to build. You need 4 inches of insulative, like bottom, top, sides, all of it material. And then based on the size, you need to size your cooling condenser appropriately, which for me, I reached out to one of our local HVAC guys who can do this and said, what do I need to get? And the reason we want to move that direction is that I do store a lot of meat and I do butchering classes here. And So, there's having that space is super cool, and cutting really cold meat is really awesome because you can cut floppy warm meat and you can get it done and it's perfectly fine, but you're going to have cleaner cuts if that meat is cold. And the other reason is that these freezers break. And the number of things to fix on like a walk-in cooler, like I've described, are not that many. So I think they have better, like, long-term longevity.
Yeah, it's a pretty closed system. So, Joe,
unless you get a walk-in freezer like mine.
Yeah, well, that's the other part. You're talking to like commercial butchers where it's like, I think it's a scaling, like it's a matter of scaling.
Yeah.
If you're raising a pig or 2 pigs, you can get away with it. You can even get away with it without a beef, depending on where you with a beef, depending on where you are in the country. But I think if you're doing more than 2 pigs or more than 3 beef a year, 4 pigs, more than 4 pigs. I did
4 in one weekend with no walk-in cooler.
Right. I think if you're doing it at a bigger scale, but not a crazy scale, a walk-in cooler is the best thing, is one of the best investments you can do, because you're absolutely right. It's not crazy expensive unless you go in my walk-in was expensive just because of the condenser unit itself.
Yeah.
Like my condenser unit was $10,000, but you can get a CoolBot and you can run that thing for years and it'll be perfect. The only reason the CoolBot didn't work for me was because I'm in northern New Hampshire and my ACs just kept dying because it wasn't efficient to run them.
Well, doesn't the CoolBot, it's above freezing then?
Yes, CoolBot is above freezing.
Yeah, you're talking about freezers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So having a walk-in freezer, like I have a small one right now in my shop. It's great for what it is, but not only are you getting more storage space, you're right, you got a lot less to maintain than having multiple freezers, but you're also usually in, Kyle's got some pretty nice standalone freezers that freeze quick, but with that walk-in freezer, when mine's running good
correctly,
like I constantly have issues with this thing. We're replacing it already, but when it's running good, I can freeze a whole beef in a couple hours, and it's
so nice.
Froze right down to it. And we have bread trays that came with the freezer actually, and as long as you keep airflow on that and then box it up after it's froze, hands down. But with the walk-in cooler also, like Pip was asking, I started out with a insulated trailer with the CoolBot in it. And for what I was doing with just doing a couple lambs or a pig, or even I did beef with that a couple times. If you're doing it on a homestead level, having some kind of way to cool it down, especially you get down in Tennessee and Kentucky and places where it generally you don't get a lot of days right in a row that stay in that 40-degree temperature range, you're going to get a better quality, and you get the opportunity to age a little bit longer without worrying if your temperatures are going to fluctuate too much to have bacteria growth.
So the smaller scale option that I've got is a commercial ice cream freezer.
Yeah.
And you can hook that up to a CoolBot.
Yeah.
So
that works well.
What it has over like the 9 fridges that are outside or whatever, I don't really have 9, but the multiple smaller refrigerators is you can put a whole pig in it.
Yeah.
If you get a big one.
I guess at the end of the day, it's not a necessity. Necessity isn't the right way to put it. It is not a necessity. It is a convenience, especially if you are learning how to butcher and you're learning how to break down animals. Do it cold. Like if you can, do it cold, because it gives you time to learn. It gives you just a more stable carcass to work off of. Like I have a hard time cutting hot meat. And I've been doing this for 13 years. I hate it. I would much rather have a nice chilled carcass that I can just work with. It also kind of splits up the day for you. If you're doing Tyler down here, or Tyler over at Evergreen Farms down here, he just put another pig in the freezer this week. And when you are starting at whatever time and you're slaughtering, breaking down, and packaging 2-3 pigs, that's a tough day. Like, especially if you're not used to it. But if you split that up and all of a sudden, okay, Saturday, we're slaughtering everything. We're actually going to take our time, make sure everything's done completely right the way we want it, stick them in the cooler overnight, and then we wake up on Sunday, start completely fresh. And now we're here. We can start breaking stuff down. So at the end of the day, no, it is not a necessity, but it is a major convenience that will pay for itself.
For sure.
If you have like a small homestead.
Well, especially if you're doing a lot of animals,
Right.
because you can also age, because I age my deer for 7 to 14 days. I do it in quarters because I don't have enough space.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you can, I think people don't realize that. They think when you're aging an animal, it has to be the whole animal. But quarters on a rack work great. Like, it made a huge difference in flavor versus just throwing it straight in bags in the freezer.
Yeah. I actually just had a meeting with a local farm. He does regenerative ag and a lot of grass-fed stuff, and we're going to try partnering up for business-wise. And he does quite a bit of – he does lamb, beef, pastured pig, poultry, a little bit of rabbit. He's running 3 farms local now. But he was asking me about aging for 21 days to help break that down. And I was trying to figure out how to make it work, and because you got to have a flow, as you would know, Kyle, in an actual shop, you have to keep your flow because you get behind an extra week for that one person's animal.
And it's screwing it all up.
The shop that I used to work for, after 14 days, if the beef that we had specifically for the shop, when you tried it, wasn't tough, we would break the whole animal down into cuts and leave the whole loin and rib section on a cart to dry age for an extra week. So I told him maybe we'll try that once we get our dry aging cooler and stuff done. So I can keep the animals moving through, but just to break down a loin and a rib is only a few extra minutes that week. The big thing is just finding space in the freezer, making sure you got enough freezer space to hold his animals in the freezer instead of your cooler. So we're working around playing with that, but I definitely agree. You don't have to age the whole animal, because that's what I told him. I said, with the way he's doing it now, on a grass-fed animal, you don't have the fat cover to minimize your loss on the carcass. I said, if we do it that way, you're going to get more yield off the cuts that necessarily aren't going to benefit from aging that extra week, but we can age just as premium steaks and then put everything else into the freezer to keep everything rolling.
Solid plan. So, Nicole, what are you currently raising?
I raise sheep as the largest animal on our homestead. And we keep talking back and forth. I keep saying, we're never going to raise cattle. And Tactical keeps saying, we'll see about that. So we have sheep. I got rid of the pigs because I didn't have a good enough setup to rotate them without very negative impact on my land. And I didn't want them just in a pen with a lot of wood chips or whatever.
Right.
I'd rather buy pigs from somebody who can properly rotate them. We've got chickens. I'm doing American breast chickens, and then ducks. I have a lot of ducks. I have 2 goats that are basically like pet dog goats, so that doesn't really count. Yeah. But they did all the underbrush clearing originally, so they get to die here.
Yeah, me and Joe are both firmly anti-duck.
Oh, I love my ducks. My property is built for ducks. That's the thing.
Yeah, but if it was your choice, you wouldn't.
No. I mean, our property is really good for ducks, too. We have a pond, couple springs that flow all the time. They get to play in it. But I don't necessarily hate ducks as an animal. I like utilizing them, especially for slug control. They're amazing. Oh, yeah. But butchering, when it comes to utilizing them for me, I absolutely hate butchering ducks. I will do anything possible to get out of butchering ducks. Anything else, I'll pretty much butcher. I hate doing ducks.
They're the worst thing on the planet.
Why? Because their feathers get stuck on there?
Yeah. See, I haven't tried the wax method yet, so I can't say maybe it will be better.
It also sucks.
I skin them. Duck skin is delicious.
I know,
but I'll deal with duck skin. But other than that,
there's the part of it that it's like you put so much time into these things. You want that crispy duck skin. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, it's like, this isn't worth it. None of this was worth it. I never want these things on my property again. Like,
I make
problem
a pretty
with the
good
ducks that we
skinless
have-
duck stew. I'm just saying.
The ducks that we have they hatch like crazy. Last year, I would have had over 50 ducks out of 7 if they all would have lived and didn't get attacked by fox and stuff. But it was just nuts. They'd hatch out a batch. By the time that batch was just feathered out, they'd have another nest. And our females just kept hatching them like nonstop. I've never had ducks that hatch babies like that, except for one Muscovy female. Those things are great moms.
My Muscovies have been very disappointing in the reproduction department.
We had one that a neighbor, it got loose, and I called her. I said, "Hey, your ducks over here," because I couldn't get past how ugly they were. I always heard how great they were, and I'm like, nah, I'll stick with my Pekins and Rowans and a few other Swedish and stuff that we have. And she just stuck around. She bred with the other ones, and we processed her babies because obviously they're not supposed to be fertile. But yeah, it wasn't worth it by any means. Not for me.
Yeah, I love the ducks. They're great. I love duck eggs. And then I'm perfect. I don't have to overachieve like people who call themselves butchers. So I'm perfectly happy just to skin them when it comes time. In fact, I have too many males right now. So it's time. I have too many male chickens and too many male ducks right now. So we need to do a cycle. And I don't really like how chicken tastes anymore. So I'm pretty sure the chickens are going to the livestock guardian dogs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like the?
Oh, we have rabbits too. I forgot about them. They're so quiet.
How do you like the American breast chickens?
Ever since I had the Kufis, chicken has tasted like rotten fish to me. And the American breast tastes like chicken to me. So they taste different, but I can't do like the standard commercial white breasted big chickens. Like,
right.
Whatever.
I tried raising those 1 year, and I ended up buying the mixed colored batch just because it was on sale at the time, and I wanted to try them. And the white ones definitely were better, but I don't think I gave them enough time to grow out when I processed them.
The first one we processed was at about 12 weeks, and then we did another one at 15. And the 15-week one was good because they're smaller, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of their meat is in the legs and thighs. That one was about ideal. And then the ones I have now are 9 months old, and they're chewy. Like they're stew birds at that point.
Yeah.
But the meat actually tastes chickeny to me and not fishy. So it does taste different. We will probably only raise breasts here for the rest of the time. We do a chicken processing class once a year. And I was just talking to another farmer about getting like the Cornish cross that she raises, because that's what people want to go home with. So I was like, I'll just buy them from you because I don't want to end up with extra Cornish cross around here because I just don't like them anymore.
For as like a prepper style, say you're doing homesteading and you're doing it to prep and be self-sufficient, do you think the American breasts are like a really good option for people?
They're one of many good options. They lay an egg. So you can do egg. They're not bad meat birds. They are smaller than what you're expecting for meat birds. Right. And as long as you're okay with that, that's fine. And if you want to let them get older and learn, cooking skills required to make a tough bird less tough, that works. Or you just, raise up a bunch and kill the males at 15 weeks and you'll have, 3-pound birds instead of 4, 5, 6-pound birds. And I have not done the grain finish that causes the marbling in the meat, but the meat is almost steak colored, which is interesting. Their dark meat it's more of a red color, and it's a slightly different mouthfeel, slightly firmer mouthfeel. All around, I'm a huge fan of them, actually, having raised them now for about a year, just from a meat standard.
Yeah, we're getting back into poultry this year, and I'm not looking too forward to it.
You guys doing meat chickens?
I haven't decided yet. More than likely, we'll do turkeys, but we'll probably end up doing a batch of Cornish too.
You want to sell me a dead turkey in October?
You want me to drive? You want me to drive a turkey from? Yeah, that's fine.
I've gotten a turkey from New Hampshire before.
Yeah,
Like I buy a turkey from a farmer every year for that one holiday in November.
yeah, I can make that work.
Yeah.
Look at that. I already
Complete
got one
drug
sold.
deal right here.
Damn it! That's why, like, I am getting back into them because people want them.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to do them. I don't want to do them so badly. But now that we're out of beef, I've got these massive pastures that I'm not putting the infrastructure in to woven wire everything. Like, I would rather just put a couple $100 into building some new tractors and just toss birds on it. And just, again, everything's all fenced in with electric. So I already have a perimeter to keep all the coyotes and everything out. So it's like, we might as well. But
turkeys are probably my favorite poultry to raise.
Oh, for sure.
Honestly. Besides the feed consumption that you put into them, and you're like, I raise a couple hundred meat birds every year, but turkeys, I just really enjoy them. Like,
yeah.
And for me, I think they're easier to process than chickens and ducks and quail. I don't know, maybe the larger size, they pluck super easy. They come out clean. They're quick. I mean, we can process a turkey in the same amount of time we can do, one chicken with the equipment that I have.
Right.
Do you cone them and do the slit?
Yeah.
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 Do you pith? Do you pith them, Joe?
What? Do I
pith
them?
So basically what I'll do before I slit them is you go on either side of the beak and you open it and you pierce right basically into the brain. So they're completely brain dead, then cut. That's how I've done it.
I think that's a really great innovation.
Yeah. So it's
because when I did turkeys, we did 30 and I did a class and they wouldn't fit in the cones because they're so big. And so we had them on a butcher block and I got beat to crap by those wings.
So two things for that one.
Yeah.
Take a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah,
and
we have
make
that.
a hole saw to the bottom of it, and you can pull the heads right out. Works super slick. If you want, you can put a strap over the top so they don't flap themselves out. But yeah, so the pithing, essentially, if they're upside down, you take them, open, like just squeeze the side of their beaks, and their mouth will open, and just go straight into the brain.
Like
completely
up.
Brain dead. Yeah, go up into it.
Oh man, I'm gonna try that.
Yep, it works. And then you slit them, and it's seconds. Like it's once you slit them, they're usually brain dead anyway because there's no more oxygen to the brain, or there's no more blood going to the brain. But first, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a little more humane, like 30 seconds of humane, but it's still a little more humane, and it just ends it. So you're not worried about it. Because we've all had that one that you've slit, and it's just the Chuck Norris of the group that's just still staring at you as it's like, and you're sitting there going, oh, God, now I just got to cut your whole head off.
Yeah.
It wasn't until last year that I was willing to kill any poultry without cutting their head all the way off.
Yeah.
For that reason, because I'm like, the eyes are still blinking at me.
Yeah.
So, and then Joel Salatin was there and he did it, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then I started doing it that way, and I was like, actually, it's a little less violent because they just sort of, it's almost like watching them fall asleep.
Right.
So
we've got a question in here. Tyler over at Evergreen Farms. Question: best way to dispatch sheep? Seems like there's a few ways to do it. Joe, you want to jump on this one first?
For me, I use my 22 mag usually. Quick, easy. Kyle uses the 410 or 45. No different.
No, not honestly. For the sheep.
I don't know.
I have.
Yeah, see, I have.
But it's not my go-to. Usually it is like a 22, or if I have the 380 on me. Like whatever's just closest. Just to the back. So basically what I'll do is I'll grab onto the back of the neck and I'll kind of either pin him up against a stall or I'll just straddle him like on the back, and it's just right in the back of the head.
I'm sure you do straddle them, Kyle.
I do. I mean, I've also just bled them. I've done that before. I don't love that, but it's also, there have been like where I've had like goats or sheep with horns that it's like, I'm not waiting for that. So it's all right. Here's a rope around the horns pinned up against the side of the stall. Okay.
Yep.
Like, we're done. We're not going to play these games. No one's getting hurt. Besides no animals were harmed except for that one.
I've got no input put on sheep because I haven't actually butchered any sheep yet.
Oh.
So I last year I had 6 to do, and it was 3 weeks before SRF, and they all went to a processor in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way for me to do it is bring them to the processor, apparently, but they shot them.
Yeah, it all depends on what works best for you. I mean, if you got someone that's close by, because I know it's becoming harder to find processors that are willing to do smaller livestock like that. They don't find it worth their time. So,
it's tough. I mean, I was in that category for a bit until I just started offering a minimum of just like, it's $150. I don't care if it's 20 pounds or 100 pounds.
Yeah.
It's $150.
Yeah, I think we're at like 125 for lamb and goat. It's just easier doing it that way because same thing with deer processing. So I know some people down south go by weight. We just do a flat fee. Then you're not worried about, you get 20 yearling fawns and you get 1 or 2 big deer. Now it did actually waste your time trying to weigh them and all the extra steps you got to take to keep track of it. The flat fee is just as easy, I think.
Yeah.
And there's really not much to it once you learn the cuts and everything. They're not bad. I think when I did my lamb processing video, I had 4.5 hours total into those 2 lambs. That was clean up on kill day, and cutting, wrapping, and clean up on that day.
Oh, yeah. We used to do, when I was at the USDA facility, between 3 of us, we'd do 25 to 30 in a day.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
For sure.
So, Tyler, I hope that helped. Shoot him.
Or you could just truck them up here to me. I'll do them for you.
I was like, how are these 2 guys?
Yeah. I mean, but that's the other reason I hate sheep and goats is almost every time is a horror story. Like, just on custom jobs, especially doing mobile stuff, the people don't have their stuff set up right. Like, they don't know what is happening, and just every time, like, I've had to put sheep in chokeholds, like lay on top of sheep and put them in a chokehold because it was 1, escaping, 2, ramming me in the leg, and it tried to get out from behind me, and after it nailed me in the leg. So I fell on it and just like landed like this. So I was like, all the gates were open. Every single gate was open. It was the last sheep. So if that thing got out, and even the farmer was like, oh, yeah, you would have been hunting that thing if that got out. I was like, no. You would have been hunting that thing if that got out. Like, there's no way.
That's anything with going to the on-farm slaughters. Like, we're offering it right now because we're new and we're, slower, and we got a fair amount of openings. We actually just made up the new flyer so people know that we're offering that. I don't enjoy it. I just did one around the corner from where we're at an Amish farm, 10-acre field. And I asked the guy that owned it, I'm like, are they wild? Are they tame? I want to know what gun to bring with me. And he goes, oh, the Amish guy said he can walk right up to him and when he's graining them and stuff. I'm like, if he wants to shoot it, I'll stay back so it doesn't see me, and then I'll get in there and stick it. That works. Well, the Amish guy's like, no, I don't want to, it's not mine. I don't want to shoot it. Luckily, I took my 22 mag, I took the 45 long Colt, and I took my 25-06. I was like, I'm having options when I go to the farm now.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to use the 25-06 at like a 90-yard shot on something that wanted to run 10 acres in circles. So it's always fun.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting job. Like, the amount of just random, like, what did I have? This was a couple months ago now, but it was like, you would think sometimes the smaller pens are easier, but they're even worse sometimes. Like I had a couple pigs a couple months ago that it was like, first one super easy. The first one's always easy because it's like, oh, this guy's got food. Like great, bang. Like, but as soon as they see it, it's all over. And the pen was probably 20 by 10, and we had just gotten a bunch of rain. It was 6 to 8 inches of just mud and shit. And it's like, awesome. And this thing's not coming in. So it's like, all right, cool. I have to get in there and like do a long range shot. But again, long range, 10 yards or whatever. But it's still like, this sucks because you're trying to hit this big of a spot on a pig that's moving and does not want to be shot. And it's like, all right, yeah, this is still the best job in the world.
Yeah, that's Nighthawk's job here. When we did the 4 pigs, we'll just say the original shooter didn't hit right. And Nighthawk walked next door, came back with his rifle, and was just like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, they're done.
Yeah,
because it was not great.
It's nerve-wracking.
Well, and then as you said, once they see it, they're like, oh, that's not right.
Right.
And it depends on the animals too. That's what, the farmers always ask me, well, how are my animals going to react? I have to tell them, I don't know. I don't know your animals. I don't know how you take care of them. I don't know if they're skittish, if they're not skittish. And even a perfectly tame animal could lose its mind when stuff like that happens. It's just, I can't give you, the guy picked up the cow today and they asked me, well, what do you think's the best, try to separate them, do it out in the pasture. I told him it's completely up to you guys. I don't have an answer for you.
To the extent I can, I don't kill one animal in front of another animal. It's not always possible.
Yeah.
But then that just eliminates the variable.
No, for sure. And that definitely does make it easier. But again, I've been in situations where that's not an option. And it's like, okay, we're going to.
This year with even my pigs, I don't have like decent setups to separate them and stuff. So luckily I know my pigs and I know what they do. So when I pour feed along the fence line, they all line up. So it worked out for me. I shut the electric fence off. I poured it close to the fence and I went down through, shot one, stuck it, and I had them done in under 2 minutes. And the other ones didn't even know it was happening until they started actually kicking around and stuff. They circled out and around. I picked them up with the skid steer, got them out of the pen, and they all went back to normal like nothing ever happened. But I've had them where you shoot one and the other ones just completely smell the blood and lose their mind, and they're climbing fences or trying to attack the one that's dying. And
beef can be bad. Oh, if you have like, obviously you've done slaughters in front of bulls, right? Oh,
that one at that farm that the guy picked up. He had a bull in there, and that thing, he wasn't horrible, but bulls.
It is. If no one has ever been around a bull, when it's real pissed off, it's the scariest thing on the planet. Like the scream that they have it goes through your soul. And I had to do one. It was my first beef in the shop on my own. It moved, or it was a steer, moved at the first shot. So then it was running around the pen, like had to get a second shot in it. The farmer ended up taking the second shot on that because I was shaking like a goddamn leaf. Because again, it was my first beef, and I'm like, just here. And we got it out, and he had a massive Hereford bull. This thing was gorgeous, but it was only an electric fence between me and this. They had to end up putting a Suburban in between, like us, just so it would like not be able to see. But it was just standing a foot from me, like it is the most terrifying sound on the planet.
My first bull I bought as a weaned bottle calf. He was half Jersey, half Red Angus, and it didn't matter what I was killing. If he got loose and smelt the blood, he tore my chicken butchering equipment up 2 or 3 times. Where he never bothered getting out of the pen. As soon as he smelt blood, he had to investigate, and he'd start scratching at the ground, pawing at the ground, and bellowing. It didn't matter what kind of animal it was. He just lose it. And it's not fun trying to get a bull back to where he's supposed to be when he's freaking out.
No.
They're big, I understand.
Massive. So, Nicole, tell us about SRF.
SRF is amazing. What else is there to say, really? Self Reliance.
All right, cool, guys. I appreciate everyone showing up to meet the critic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self Reliance Festival.com. It's a festival where we talk about homesteading, building your own business. This time we're going to have some sessions on health. We have demonstrations. We've got a guy coming and doing a chainsaw mill this time, which will be really cool. And we've got the defense dog demonstrations. There's food, there's vendors, and man, it's like the whole theme is about empowering our network, and by our network I mean anybody who comes, to work together long term to become more resilient, because I believe that self-reliance is not just self-reliance. Like, if you're going to be successful in life or through a crisis, it takes a network, it takes a community of people who trust each other. And so we build all of that into it, and there are a ton of opportunities to meet people. Even if you're an introvert, it's a very comfortable event. Mm-hmm. And who we got speaking? This is not official yet. Can I say it? Yeah. Okay, I'll say it. Angry American's coming this time.
Nice.
Yeah. So unless something happens last minute, he's already said he's coming. I just haven't sent the confirmation letter yet. So super excited about that. We've got Sonny Bazooka talking about how to have the right mindset in a crisis situation. And he's from the Soviet Union. So he was from that military and then came over here. And there's just a lot to learn from him, because he's seen societal meltdown of a pretty major scale.
Right.
Lived through it, built a life, right? And so that's his session is going to be on that. We just got a ton going on. It's very hard I find it hard to explain the festival, because it's like, there's this.
It's so hard to explain.
John Willis up there, get off your butt and make your life better. He's pretty awesome. And you'll have a chance to talk to him. So he's from Special Operations Equipment. I'll be there. My presentation is Change Your Life with My 3 Things, which is a book that I've been working on for years. It's finally coming out. We've got digital passes. It's all over at selfreliancefestival.com.
Yeah. And just to clarify for everyone, the one you're speaking of now is the spring festival, correct?
April 6th and 7th is the festival. So that's Saturday and Sunday. And there are workshops the day before. So there's a medical workshop. There is the women's self-defense class. I don't have an herbalism one booked yet, but we do have a wild edible workshop that day as well. So that Friday before, there's a lot going on. I don't know if we'll be butchering any animals this time. We've done pigs, we've done chickens, we've done all sorts of different animals over the years. And I'm on the fence about if we need to be butchering something at this one or not, or if we just wait till you're there in October. But we do 2 a year. There's usually music on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. That was super fun this year. Yeah.
Camping on site, that's included in your ticket. So
the herbal ones I'd be interested in. I was just talking to my wife about that. We haven't got real deep into the prepping type stuff. Not as much as we wanted to, more financial type reasons than anything. But I just was looking at a couple books the other day of learning more about wild edibles and herbal medicines and stuff. Cause I told her she's got a lot of thyroid issues and stuff like that, I told her, something happens, you can't get your medication. We should at least have basic knowledge of what to look for to try to help that. Not only that, we have 2 young kids. I'm fairly young and healthy for now, but it's still good knowledge to have, because you get people in your communities that might not be, we take care of my grandfather. He's 80 something years old. It's just good knowledge to have.
Yeah, there's so much to learn on the herbal side. We've got a lot of herbalists in the community here, so that's been really cool. Like, I had a lady to my house because we do a meeting here sometimes. It was supposed to be once a month, but I took a few months off. She came out and just said, these 5 things grow here in Tennessee, and this is what they're good for. And it was like yarrow, St. John's wort, and I knew some of the plants and used them, but she then went deeper into it about other things they were good for. We ended up making a tincture out of goldenrod here this year, and I made more goldenrod than we could possibly use in a lifetime, and I was wrong. Because Tactical struggles with back issues from the military, Tactical redneck who lives here, and he was just like really inflamed around Christmas time and like having a hard time moving much. And I said, well, try this goldenrod. And I said, how'd that work? And he said, that worked too well. It was scary because I think I could injure myself because it just took everything away. So as it turns out, I did not make too much because he's now halfway through that jar. So we'll last until I get to harvest more goldenrod next year.
Perfect.
Or this year, I guess it is now.
And that's one thing, like, it's so easy to find. I mean, just about everywhere that I've been anyway. I mean, we have endless amounts of goldenrod, and I'm sure nobody's, even if you don't have it on your property, I don't think I've ever met somebody that would holler at you for harvesting
goldenrod
on their
stop picking my goldenrod.
Yeah.
Stop picking the thing that's going to kill all my animals. Like,
yeah. But I mean, with me trying to get back into, learning more of this stuff, and luckily we have a large Amish community around us, so we can go. I call it the Amish Walmart. This place is amazing. They just built a new store. I've been by. She had a small store for years of dry goods, but now she's built this new store, and they've got everything. They've got dry goods. They got meats and eggs in this big elaborate ice cooler system they have. They've got clothing, cookware, you name it, they have it in there for the Amish. Lamps and oils and different things to, between the Amish mall, the feed store I use, we have a chainsaw shop. If I leave my hill now that I work for myself, it's to go over the next hill, deal with the Amish, and I come right back home. Like that's as far as I usually go. I don't go out very often anymore, which is perfectly fine with me.
You don't need any of them dirty English.
No. Just the ones that want to bring their animals to me.
Right. Those guys are great. Everyone else.
I get along great with Amish people.
I wish we had them.
Yeah. Mennonites and Amish. I guess I have Mennonites in my background, but it's, we have similar priorities. That's a very self-reliant community, right? And so you can learn so much.
Well, also
I learned most of my food preservation from Mormons, oddly enough.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nicole, is there anything else you want to toss out about SRF? Anything else you'd like to plug?
All I can say is this. If you're hearing this and you're like, man, that sounds kind of fun, but it's too far or whatever, like that dude right there, you, came all the way, drove 21 hours to come to Self Reliance Festival, and he's coming back. And that should tell you something. I think the most important thing about the festival isn't the spinning demonstrations or butchering demonstrations or, the chainsaw mill or any of that. That's all cool. That's what gets people there. But what's the most important part are the people you'll meet and the relationships you'll make. And it's worth the investment. If you're feeling uneasy about what's going on at the border and all of the things that have been happening lately, come to something like SRF if you can't come to Self Reliance Festival. Or make it happen that you do come to Self Reliance Festival, because it's kind of like I used to go to New Country every year. And the way I got this done is I would buy the ticket to Thailand or wherever, have the time off. And then once I bought the ticket, I made the rest of it work. Like there's so much you can do to like keep things under control. And in that way, I got to see a lot of amazing places. Self Reliance Festival is the same way. If you get there, it's going to open up doors for you, and relationships, but it's also, I think it's unlike anything else that exists out there at this time. So check it out, selfreliancefestival.com. We are at early bird pricing until March 1st. So it's $85 for the weekend. That includes your parking. Right now it might be 95 actually, but it includes your parking pass. We have parking at the entrance, and then you can on-site camp. We have some outdoor showers and things that people can use. So I think it's a pretty fun thing. You camped there, didn't you?
No, we ended up staying at a
Oh.
hotel last minute.
Frou.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wasn't a camper, so.
Yeah. No, I decided that was going to be a better. As soon as I found out it was going to be like 40 degrees, my wife was already on the fence about being there anyway. And I'm like, I'm just going to get a hotel because this is going to make my entire weekend way easier.
Yeah. And if you need a podcast to listen to, livingfreeintennessee.com is my podcast. We put
Absolutely.
out 3 or 4 a week right now.
And all of those links are in the description of this video or the podcast if you're listening audio.
Awesome.
I caught your when you guys were talking to Bear, I think it was 2 weeks ago, last week. Yeah, I listened. I was still working late that night, and I see it pop up, so I was listening to it while I was working.
Yeah. The live ones you do like on Tuesdays at like 1, or it's 1:30 for me, but it's like those ones always always surprise me. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they do this.
It does me too, because I'm not used to having the lives pop up in the middle of the day and actually be able to listen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, beautiful. Joe,
Awesome.
Where can everyone find you?
Every week here with Kyle. Can't forget. I better not forget to ever plug the podcast again. I won't hear the end of it between Kyle and
all right, we're going to go a little late. We're going to go a little late because we got to talk about this because I was dying laughing.
And of course, our YouTube channel, Blakesley Acres, and we're on Facebook at Blakesley Acres. Email us, shoot us a message, whatever. I'm always open to chatting about all this stuff. So anybody just wants to reach out, I'm good with that.
Perfect. So I'm going to do my plugs in a second. I do just have to make fun of Joe for a little bit because it was so goddamn funny. Joe was just on Troy McClure's podcast, the Pasture Pig podcast. It was his debut episode of that. Actually, it was your first episode off, or first podcast, not this one, right?
Exactly. And it was the first week of me being co-host, so I was new at it. I didn't even think about it until after the fact. Like, we stopped recording, and I did tell Troy, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm co-hosting with Kyle now on his. He goes, oh. And I was like, well, it's too late now. We already stopped recording.
But he kicked ass. He did so good on the podcast. It was a great episode. But the entire time I'm waiting for the plug in the podcast because it was like we did just figure this out and it was new. And he went through the whole plugs. And I texted him immediately. I was like, good job plugging the podcast. And Canadian Farmstead, who's not in here tonight, had the killer line of all of it. He was in our Telegram group, which the link is in the description of this video and audio for that. He's like, hey, it was a great podcast. It also makes a really good drinking game. And Joe just goes, oh, why is that? And he says, oh, you drink every time there's a perfect opportunity to plug your podcast. I was dying for 40 minutes. I was my oldest was throwing up all over the place, changing beds. And I just get this text and I'm crying, laughing in the middle of all of this. And my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you won't understand. It's fine. Oh, that killed me. But yeah, I just had to razz it for that because that was hysterical. But everywhere else, you can find me at BackwoodsButcher603. That is YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And we now also have a website, backwoodsbutcher.com. Crazy. We're getting out there.
Well, you're moving on up.
Moving on up. Also, and like I said, the link to the Telegram group, the Critter Crew, that is in the description of both video and audio. So if you have Telegram, come on over and join us with that. Bunch of awesome people in there talking farming, butchering, and absolute nonsense. So if you're looking for a laugh and some information, come find us over in there. So, Nicole, we appreciate you being on. for sure. Nice to have some celebrities in here.
Oh, I'm so glad I get to be a celebrity. Thanks.
You're our celebrity.
All right, everybody. We will see you next time.